All right, we're now looking at target 3A.3. I can simplify the powers of I by using the definition of imaginary numbers. So when we're working with exponents of complex numbers, there's a lot going on here. Remember that I equals the square root of -1. So I to the 0, well, the rule for any number raised to the 0 is 1. Okay? So if you think about 2 to the 0 equals 1, 10 to the 0 equals 1, that's just a rule. So even with I to the 0 equals 1. I to the first, right, remember we don't have to write a exponent if it's just 1, so it's just I, we know it's -1. So I to the first is just I. Easy peasy. I squared, well if I do I times I, or if we're doing the square root of -1 squared, the square root and the squared cancel out and I'm left with just -1. So I squared simplifies into -1. I to the third is I times I times I. Well, we just saw that I squared, or I times I, is -1. So I have -1 times I, which is just -I. So I to the third is -I. This one we have I to the fourth, I times I times I times I times I times I times I. Well, I have I squared, which is -1, or I times I, right? Here I have I times I, so that's another -1. -1 times -1 is 1. If I continued this and did I to the fifth, I'd have I times I times I times I times I. Well, this is I to the fourth, right? That's 4 i's, which we now know is 1. Right, you should see this is repeating. 1, I, -1, I, 1, I. And it's going to continue that pattern forever. Okay? So the powers of I follow this pattern. Okay? This does have to be memorized. You have to know what the pattern is. If you want to think about it like I did, right? I know that I is right? I is just I. I squared is -1. I, whatever. You can kind of work it out when you come to like quizzes and tests, or you can memorize it. So those are your options. Okay. So how can we find powers of I? I to the 19th. So for our first method, the baseball method, run the bases up to your power. So first base is I to the first, which we know is I. Second base, I squared, which is -1, right? All of this is, you can't see it anymore, but you should be able to see it on your paper. I to the third equals -I, and then I to the fourth, or I to the 0, right, equals 1. So we can fill in our bases from that. So when I want to do I to the 19th, I'm going to run the bases, and I'm going to continue running around until I've gotten to 19. Okay, so just like in baseball, you start at home plate, and then you go to first, second, third. Home we're saying is back to fourth, so we've gone 4 so far. We're gonna do it again. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. If I go around 19 bases, I'm at I to the third, which equals -I. Okay. So running bases is one method. There's a time when I don't want to run that many bases though, like this one, 41. Or if you look down here, 82. I don't want to run that many times around the base. So we can mathematically think about well, what base am I actually going to land on? And we do that by doing long division, really. Okay. So, divide your power by 4. So here's my power. So I'm going to take 41 and divide it by 4. So our first step is divide. And this is what we're just going to use our calculator for. 41 divided by 4. And we want it as a decimal. So what you're going to do is hit Control, Enter. Why? Oh, I'm using the wrong. Control, Enter. Because we do want it as a decimal. Okay. And all I care about is how many times 4 fits into 41. 4 goes into 41 10 times. There's this remainder, and I don't care about the decimal. All I care about is that it goes in 4 times. So we get 10.25. We don't care about that part. I'm just going to put the 10 up there. The next step is multiply. Right, so this is just long division. You learned this in maybe 5th grade. I don't know when you learned long division. In elementary school, we've probably forgotten it. So I'm going to multiply going this way. So 10 times 4 is 40. Then I subtract. (41 minus 40 is 1. And then that's my new exponent. So I now have I to the first. This 1 is my new exponent up here. And I to the first simply equals I. So I to the 41 equals I. Okay. All right, let's do these problems with the division method because I think it's a little more complicated. So we probably want to see that one a little more. Again, the first thing we do is divide. So I'm going to do 16 divided by 4. Then I'm going to do 16. I'm going to do divided by 4. Instead of hitting enter even the first time, you can just hit Control, Enter, and it'll give you it as a decimal. This one equals just 4. It doesn't have any decimals. That's nice and easy. The next thing we're going to do is multiply. 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. The next thing we're going to do is subtract. 16 minus 16 is 0. And that 0 is my new exponent. That goes over here. So now I have I to the 0. And if you look back up at your chart, I to the 0 equals 1. Okay, and that's at the top of the page. Looking at number 17, that one's easy. I to the third is one of our numbers on the chart already. So I to the third is just negative I. Or again, you could run those bases and you're at that third base. Okay. Number 18, this is definitely one I would use the division method for because I don't want to count around 82 times. I feel that would take forever. So I'm going to do 82 divided by 4. All right, especially as you practice this method, you'll get faster at it, so it'll take less time. By 4, Control, Enter. And we get 20.5. Again, we don't care about that. I just care about the 20. The next thing we're going to do is multiply. The wrong color. So 20 times 4, if you need a calculator, that's fine. 20 times 4 gives you 80. 82 minus 80 is our next step. So we're subtracting. 82 minus 80 is 2. And so that 2 is our new exponent. And that goes over here. So I to the 82 is the same thing as I squared, which we know equals -1 from our chart. Finally, 19, I to the 13th. Same thing. I will tell you, you get 3.25. I'll just do it. So 13 divided by 4, and then control, enter, 3.25. Again, we don't care about the decimal, so we just put the 3 up. Our next step is to multiply. 3 times 4 is 12. Our next step is to subtract. We get 1. And so that is our new exponent. So it's equals I to the first, which is just I. The biggest mistake students make in these ones is saying I to the 13th equals 1, because that's what they get here. Or I to the 82nd equals 2. That is incorrect, right? This is your new exponent on I. So that's the biggest thing to remember. Otherwise, that's it. Go ahead and work on your activity.